Slurped up my G's. Hope you're doing super well. Today we're going to do a really special video on phase plant. We're going to do a NANULAR synthesis or granular video. Yeah, I'm going to basically turn this nasty little sample here.
Ik zat bij de betalende kant natuurlijk wat anders. Want die onbetalende, dat was dan koep en leren naaien, leren thuishouden doen en zo.
Into a dirty bass sound. But before I do that, I want to just give a big thank you to a lot of the subscribers on here because I've had loads of comments in the last week or so, and I haven't had the time to get around to replying to everyone. So I just want to run through a couple of names, and well, more than a couple, just to say thanks really. So thank you Cyanoise, Mark Kober, Lazy Swordsmith, Darkside Mail, Dalrotem or ROTM, thank you. Conquering Lion Kappa, Mike Briggs as always, Almond093, Derry Heptinstall, RKN PK, John 0830, Elisa Hine, MFD&B, big ups to you as well. Big ups to Xenopath, who inspired this video today. A shout out to Three Thieves, Devin Grey Music, Illuzi, KDHD, Pascal as always my G, Theodore Petria, Ian Trigue, my student G, Ometa, Delphian, a patron supporter, Felix H, Black Toys, Chris Him, as always, my absolute G, Northern Deviant, Michael Paul, Beats Bastelon, Mid-Sector, KDHD, Freshly Baked D&B, and also Adam Gannon. So thanks to all you guys for all your comments recently. It really means a lot. It's absolutely amazing to read through all of those. And yeah, so today we're gonna get straight into it then. We're gonna do this sample here into a bass which sounds a little bit like this. Okay, so a lot of different movements and tones that we can play around with. And yeah, so let's dive straight into it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly reset everything and I'll edit this part out so you don't have to watch that, and then we'll dive in. So the really cool thing about this granular synthesis technique is you can really use any sample you want. I really like vocal samples because I feel like you get the best textures out of them. But if you've got one with loads of different sort of, you know, like a longer file with more audio information, then you can quickly shift around like the kind of tone of the sound just by moving the start position around, you know. So I've set a tone macro up here to control where in the sample we're starting from. So once it's run through all of the effects and things, you can quickly get new tones and textures and timbres really easily, you know. And so the first thing I did was I kind of got this rhythm on there because the granular, you know, it's sort of repeats, it's sort of putting everything on loop. And so what I wanted to do was to sort of get a rhythm going already with the speed of the grains that kind of fits with my drums. So all I've done is I've played with the amount of grains and the length of them to get, you know, a nice kind of speed that sort of fits with my drum beat. So that's the first thing to do. Then the next thing to do is to run it through a nice sine wave. So a nice one here, -24, and we just take the output of this. We run it into the phase of the sine wave. Turn it to the left or right, doesn't really matter. Okay, so getting a nice blend there. And then what I've done next is I've actually introduced another harmonic. So it's another sine wave, an octave higher. And this one is basically, it's kind of optional. So you can have this extra harmonic in if you want by controlling on the macro here. So you want to pad the sound out with a bit of extra kind of mid-range, then you can. And what's important that I've done here is I've filtered it, so we take out the low frequencies so the sub has a bit more room here, and then I've sort of overdriven it a bit as well with distortion. So cool way to put some effects in on the actual oscillator section. But yeah, this one is also FM'd, so the FM output from our first one goes into the phase of this guy here, yeah? So just a little bit to the right this time. Always test left and right, see which sounds better. Then I've got a bit of white noise as well. And this is actually coming in then on LFO. So this LFO is doing a sort of faster kind of rhythm here. Yeah, and that's basically tracked to the level of the white noise. So we've got a bit of a white noise movement. The LFO also goes on my harmonic kind of bass here as well. So that's also amping up the volume of that if I want it to. Okay, so that's basically also we can change the speed of that later. But now we've got all the main sort of ingredients in there. So we're ready to go on and yeah, like affect all of it as a whole. But just to recap, we got a nice sine wave. We've got the FM going into it from the sample. We've got the sample. It's got its own volume output to lane 1 as well. And then, yeah, this harmonic is giving a bit of extra beef in the mid-range. And the white noise to the salt and pepper on top, you know? And, yeah, then essentially what we're going to do next is we're going to affect it all together on the global unison. So I can add in some stereo. And the student asked me recently, he said, do you well, he was actually making all of his basses in mono and then trying to make them stereo afterwards. And this is my opinion, I think it's always better to make your bass in stereo because then you got the chance to get nicer textures and cooler things going on when you're playing with the stereo image while you're designing it. And then as long as you don't go overboard or go too wide with it, you can simply do a bit of mid-side EQing afterwards to make sure the low end is in mono. You know, just the real low end. You know, you can keep most of it stereo still. As long as you don't go overboard with the unison or the chorus or the reverb, like keep it just tamed, like a little bit always, just a little bit here and there, then you can get a nice balanced stereo bass with, you know, still power in it. That's my opinion. So next then, got those ingredients in, and now we're going to add in After Effects to really basically enhance what we've already set up. Okay, so non-linear filter, sort of setting myself up for the distortion, which is coming in next, saturation, because this really slams everything together. You know, I like that one a lot. Go through the different modes, see what works best for that sound. But here, saturate mode sounds wicked to me. And then, yeah, the non-linear filter as well, we kind of control the position of that on the macro here. This tone macro can shift it around a little bit. But I like the metallic mode here. Again, try the different modes out, but this one just seems to bring out the high end quite nicely a lot of the time. Yeah. So that notch filter makes it a bit more, shapes the sound a bit. You know, I don't want to take out so much of the mid-range, you know, here where I have. So I've put a little bit of movement on, so it's a little, you know, it's a little bit more dynamic. But yeah, I really like having that before the distortion, so we can kind of get a bit more emphasis to like the bass and the high end. You know, take out just a little bit of the mids, just as a way to shape it to make it a little bit more pleasing. All right, next then I've got a 3-band EQ. This is just adding a bit of high end, and actually just on the macro, because when I do this kind of tone shifting, you know, sample start position shift with the macro, I found that as I went to the right, lost a bit of sort of loudness and high end from the sound. So basically I'd set up a little high end boost on this macro as well. So as it goes to the right, we get a little bit of that extra boost that I think we need. Okay, so next then, I've got to make the sound just a little bit more refined, a little bit more natural. So all I'm going to do is add on a convolution reverb, which I love. This is one of my favorites. It's the white blur. It's a short one, 50 milliseconds on the synthetic mode, and it's got such a nice tight sort of room reverb to it when you blend this back in. Yeah, really love the way it just adds this extra natural space, but that's still really tight and controlled. Then, because I've sort of, you know, almost washed the sound out a little bit with the reverb, you know, mixed it in a little bit, I still want to get some brightness and volume back in again, so that's why I distort again afterwards. Here's the phase distortion, and the tone is all the way up, so I'm distorting, you know, especially the high end. We really want to saturate that. But the sound often falls apart when you drive it too much on the phase distortion, for me at least, you know. It sort of becomes a bit too horrible up there, so I just you drive it up a little bit. 20 or 25%. Bit of stereo spread, as always, just to get a little bit of detail in the stereo. Then a bit of dual delay. Purely adds this tiny little tail at the end. Don't know if you can hear it. Just this little bit of a tail just to put it in a room. Yeah, that's all I'm really doing here. So low feedback, a little bit of tone up, so it's more of a high-end kind of tail, and then just like 3% on the mix. Really, really small amount. Next then, just kind of like refining it and smoothing everything out a bit more. It's the ensemble, my favorite sort of chorus kind of type of effect. And this time I've chosen to modulate the amount of it on my LFO here. Again, this LFO we can control the speed of again here, which is cool. But having that stereo interest by giving the ensemble a bit of a movement in the mix, I like that. I like that a lot. So then, finally, a little bit of extra distortion. The overdrive for me is sort of the cleanest, most classic one that doesn't sort of change the sound too much, just kind of gives you that last bit of volume push that you might want. And then another little high-end shelf on everything, just to bring out the details that we've kind of added to the sound along the way. And that's basically the main sort of aspects of this patch then. The NANULAR synthesis, hope you guys liked it. And again, you know, we have a lot of things to play with, and especially if we start sort of changing the tone, so the sort of start position, along with the shift, kind of the LFO speed of this sort of counter rhythm that I set up with the harmonic FM and the white noise. We play that around as well. You know, you can already hear it in there. There's a whole scope and array of different kind of textured Neurofunk-y sounding kind of basses, you know? So I really, really like that. And also, yeah, obviously I use this random Dutch Nana sample, but really you can use anything you want and apply the same sort of other formula that I've presented here, and you'll get just as interesting or maybe even better results doing it your own way. So feel free to experiment. Those of you guys who want this preset, if you're on my Discord, just drop me a line and I'll paste it in the chat for you guys if you like it. If not, continue on your own sound design journey. Wish you all the best, and thanks a lot for watching. Honestly, your support means a lot. We're almost at 4K. By the time this video comes out, we might just have hit 4K, so that'll be awesome, because I don't know why you guys are still watching me for so long. I just don't know. I don't understand it, because I'm a bumbling buffoon half the time. Anyway, thanks a lot. Have a great day. Peace out. Ciao for now. Don't do anything I wouldn't. Bye.